Now, if you want to always lead with your hips in the downswing like we see every single top player in the world, well then you have to have these two things in your golf swing. And one of them interchanges dependent on your club path in the downswing. So this is incredibly important information for everyone to know. No one talks about this online. So let's get straight into it. So to get that awesome leading movement with the hips, number one thing you need is time. So why we're putting this first, because this applies to everyone. This next one afterwards, like we said, is different for each player. So time. So what I mean by that is so many golfers who really struggle with leading with their hips, maybe they're really rushed with their arms, maybe they get this upper body moving first, they ultimately rush that start of the downswing to where it's all just a blur, where they might have a good, let's say, shot intent, they might generate some speed, but of course, they can't hit the planet because they're so rushed. Like me there, that went very, very, very far offline. That even missed the entirety of the virtual range. So that's where what we will see, and what we see loads of top players focus on, is the feeling of being patient at the top. Let's say an extreme like Hideki Matsuyama with his pause, and he clears his hips amazingly. And Rory McIlroy also has the feeling quite often, especially when he's a little bit out of sequence, he'll feel a little pause at the top. It won't necessarily look like a pause, but it feels like it. And that just gives you time for the hips to unwind as we start down. If you go too quickly with the arms, that's not gonna happen. Your arms have literally just outraced your hips. So give yourself that little bit of time to collect at the top, to where that, again, did that look like I paused at the top? No, but it felt like I did. And that feeling like it did gave me time to be able to unwind with the hips. So we know we have that kind of subconscious want to hit the ball as soon as we start that downswing, but we've got to get that out of your swing. So really having that nice kind of paused feeling is absolutely brilliant. But what we can do is a good little drill, classic drill. We mentioned Hideki Matsuyama, and absolutely doing what he does as a drill can train this into players' swings, is feeling like you're pausing for a second or two at the top and then turning down. You can best bet you're gonna have all the time in the world then to clear and lead with those hips. So there we go, lovely shot, nice and straight as well. Don't expect to hit the ball massively far when you do that drill, unless your sequencing just boom, goes right into place nicely. So for me, I'd normally hit the ball a little bit further. Later than that, I'm currently recovering from the flu. It's not been a fun, let's say 2 weeks, certainly hasn't, but you're gonna start to see some really nice, efficient shots when you get yourself some time. So what is this other little thing, or two little things here, that change from player to player? And if you don't do these, you're not gonna be able to lead with the hips. It's that simple. So let's get straight into it. And that is what you're feeling as well when you're starting your downswing. So time, giving ourselves all the time in the world, that's really important. But let's say we're a player who has that big over the top move in the downswing. So that player who is massively over the top, extreme out to win, the worst thing they could possibly think to lead with the hips is actually trying to lead with the hips. Worst thing you could do. Because when a player swings over the top, yes, that is their arms and chest moving too quickly. But then if they, let's say, try to speed up their lower body, for example, they're just going to swing even more over the top, because that rotation that they're trying to kind of amplify up a little bit more is going to push the hands and arms way too much out in front of them. They're just going to get worse. So what those players need to do, you will often see they actually rotate their hips perfectly fine in a downswing, and that's at a good speed. They just need to calm down this, the chest. Because if you calm down that chest in transition and just let that lower body go, you're going to see that club start to drop and start to fall on a better path. So we're just getting rid of that excessive movement. So a great feel for those players is to feel the middle of your chest, so right in the middle of this PXG logo here, pointing behind, so like at you guys, but ultimately as long as I can, especially if I am an extreme over the top guy, because if I'm having that point at you for as long as possible, that chest rotation is going to be a lot quieter. So that's going to give, again, time for the lower body to unwind. Hand path's going to have a little bit more of a drop as a result. And these players especially don't really need to worry about what they need to feel through impact with rotation, because they will just do it. They'll just spring through. But chest pointing back is a brilliant one that will move that path a little bit more neutralized anyway. But give you time for that lower body to do what it wants to do, and that's unwind. So chest pointing back for as long as you can. And that's really going to help you for getting that little bit better path. As we can see, I've just moved just into 0.1 to the right. So absolutely, really good one for you over the top guys. Now, for people who, well, exactly what I was like, and that was too much on the inside. So again, this all relates to your natural club path and what you need to do to lead with those hips. So these guys cannot do what I've just described for the over the top guys. So you cannot feel your chest pointing too much behind, because if you're naturally on the inside in the downswing, that's going to make your path even more on the inside. There isn't enough that you'll be able to clear those hips to be able to help you with that. So what we want to do, we want to pretty much encourage that total rotation of the body. So making sure that as we're turning with those hips, we are doing it in a fashion that keeps everything turning, because just turning and try to spin the hips is not a good thing to try to do on their own for an into-out player. You need to do it in a specific way, and that is by taking advantage of hip tilt. So when we see players, and most players who get a little bit stuck on the inside, who might look like they've got good hip movement, but they actually won't, is they start their downswing with that left hip hiking up. So they might be trying to physically bump the hips, or they're just turning, trying to get the left side high, which is not good. Because what that'll do, yes, that might get your hips technically leading, but in an inefficient way. But it'll also get the club trapped behind you. So when that left hip lifts up, the upper body tilts back away from the target, that gets the club dropping excessively on the inside. Then yes, you might be able to get somewhat rotated with the hips, but the chest won't be able to follow because it's too displaced behind that lower body. And if you try to turn from there, you're gonna have some horrific left shots most likely, certainly would for me. And you're going to experience some terrible back pain. So a lot of guys who try to rotate and they get back pain, well, this is you. So what we want to do, we want to get the hips turning in a way that helps the upper body not do this, move back away from the target. So it helps encourage a little bit of chest rotation as well. So what we want to do, we want to keep the left side of the pelvis down as we turn. Because if we can keep the left side of the pelvis down as we turn, that keeps the upper body on top of the lower body. So that means you won't be moving aggressively away from the target. Club's going to fall more on path for that into-out golfer. And that's going to help you lead with the hips in a much more functional way. We're feeling down with the pelvis as you're turning. Keeps everything organized really nicely for that into-out golfer. You can then continue to move and turn through the golf ball with efficient rotation without the risk of that back flaring up in pain as well. Because again, if left side lifts up, we're back here. If left side lifts down or goes down, we're right on top of each other in a much more kind of stacked position. So a good little thing to do for this, a drill, I've done tons of this drill in my golfing life, and that is get an alignment stick and putting it through your belt loops. So when you put it through your belt loops here, we want a tiny bit on the right, along the left. All we want to do is keep this stick pointing down and going around. That's it. That's all we want to do. Stick pointing down and turning. If we can do that, upper body's going to stay more on top of the lower body, and that's going to help you lead much more functionally, neutralize that path, and have really nice rotation as well as a byproduct. So down and around with that stick as soon as we start that downswing. It's going to help you into out golfers massively, and that's what you want to focus on when you are trying to lead with the hips. So let's say you've done a bunch of this and how to then, let's say, have a feel out on the golf course that replicates that is really feeling like you're sinking down into kind of like your left heel or left ankle region. That's going to keep your tilt as you turn. I like, again, that feeling, because this is something that I try to focus on in my swing. I like the feeling there of having that nice kind of slow, giving yourself time movement. And as I'm doing that, I feel like I'm sinking with that left hip down into that left ankle or left heel. So really feel like it's almost floating here. Then go down, and because if you're doing that into your left hip as well, you're turning as well. So doing it into your left heel. So that's a great feel, sinking into that left heel or left ankle as you're feeling like things are almost floating at the top to give you time. And if you're an into-out golfer, that is absolutely brilliant for you to be able to lead properly. And just nice smooth one down there, nice and controlled. That is much, much better. So as you can see, time is something that is hugely important. You need that. Doesn't matter what your path is. If you don't have enough time, you're not going to lead with the hips properly. And then, of course, Keeping the chest rotation at bay for overly out to in players. And then for overly into out players, keeping your hip tilt. So important. So it's almost like a bump down rather than a bump to the target. It's another good way to think of it. So, okay guys, if you like this video, click that like button. If you want more golf instruction, just like this, hit the subscribe button and hit that bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video.